which saw is going to be faster here. I think the results might surprise you.
The camera's not on. That awkward. Why is he talking to the camera? It's not on. Okay, today we got a great combination. We've got David, who is probably one of North America's top rip cutters. Probably rip cuts 20 to 30 logs a year. So if there's anyone out there that rip cuts logs more than that, well, we'll see. And we've got some of North America's top saws. We've got some pretty awesome saws, and we're gonna really punish them today and see which saws come out on top. Pass it over to David and he'll talk about which saws we got here.
Today we're going to be looking at the MS 500i, which is one of the top performing Stihl saws from the last year. A lot of people are talking about it. There's a lot of videos on it and there's a lot of comparisons between it and pretty much every other saw out there doing cross cuts. But I have not seen yet a rip cutting video on this saw, and I have not yet seen this saw compared to a 40-year-old competitor, which would be the 090G. Now obviously there's a bit of a size difference between these two saws. So we're looking at 120 some cc's and 80 cc's. Computer controlled, fuel injected, brand new saw, an old carbureted, definitely not fuel injected. Main key differences would also be the chain speed between these two. So this uses a gear reduction system that actually slows down the chain versus this one, which is running at 13,000 RPM, high chain speed. This is my shortest bar for this chainsaw. It is 4 feet long and it is full house. And we're gonna see how that compares when doing rip cuts on big logs. The 500i is a nice lightweight saw for its size. You get a lot of power out of that much saw. And if you compare that to the 090, it's pretty light too.
What do you think that 090 weighs, David?
Oh, I don't know, 100 pounds. I feel like, I don't know, like 20 pounds, and this one's like I don't know, 50 or 60. That's without a chain brake. This saw predates chain brakes. Imagine how heavy it would be if it had a chain brake on it. Another key advantage to the Stihl 090G is the throttle lock. You can lock the throttle in place, and then you can go do something else. You can go back to the mill and mill something and come back when it runs out of gas, which will be relatively quickly. Here's the challenge that I've proposed. So we're gonna take two logs that are similar sizes. We're gonna put one saw in one log, one saw in another log, and I'm gonna time lapse the whole thing. We're gonna see which one is faster. At the end of the video, we'll give you our conclusions on which one is faster, easier, and better at this particular task. Okay, so let's get started here. I'm just gonna get the saws warmed up. I'm gonna start with this one because it needs a little bit more time to get going. Oh, nope, we're good. Just find the bar because it's gonna be spinning. Well, I've turned the logs around. We took a quick break and I needed it for two reasons. First, I needed a bite to eat. Second, I was waiting for the feeling to return back into my hand. The Stihl 090 has no anti-vibe on it. In comparison, this is quite comfortable. The 500i is quite comfortable to handle. On the first cut, the 500i was faster, but let me point out a few things that I noticed while I was cutting. First of all, the Stihl 090 with a 4-foot bar makes a nice straight cut. In comparison, I was getting a little bit of curving happening on the 500i. I think that could be in part to the bar being longer. I've sharpened both saws back up because I found both of them to be just a touch dull. Now we have, hopefully, two very sharp saws, quite evenly matched, and we're gonna finish the two cuts left on these logs. Let's go. Man, I ran out of fuel right at the end of the cut with the 090. I think I might have been cutting too deep. I have no idea where the tip of the bar is on this saw. Like, who's used to cutting with a 4-foot bar? I'm not. I don't know, is it here? I don't know. Both logs are now cut twice, and we have a clear winner on the cut speed. Now we want to see how good the quality of the cuts were. So we're going to do a quick drop test, which is a technical term that we use around here. We'll use a standard 10-foot drop. Actually, 10's pretty high. Let's make it a bit harder. Let's do a 5-foot drop and see if one of these logs passes or fails or what happens, okay? So we'll do the drop test right here, and I'm just going to move some stuff out of the way and we can do a proper drop test. So we're doing a drop test on the 500i's cuts. We'll drop it right here and we'll see if it opens. That one opened up. Clearly this saw was not cutting perfectly straight, operator error. So we've got a little bit of drifting on each cut, but it still managed to come apart in a satisfactory way. We're gonna make some excellent piano soundboards out of this stuff. So that'll be what Mike does with it. Let's see how the 090's cuts fared. I can see it wanting to open, so I know it did pretty good. Let's move this one out of the way so we can drop the other log. It did not require a drop test. It broke apart pre-drop. The 090 definitely gives better results on the final product. It's actually quite smooth of a cut here. We have results in. We have a drop test of 5 feet, and then we have no drop test required. We have a bit of a winner in the drop test category. 090 takes it. Say what you will about the 090, but it does a good job of what it does.
That was pretty awesome. This looks like we got a pretty nice cut here. I was kind of going back and forth between the sawmill and here, and I gotta say, from my point of view, this saw was really exciting. I could hear this saw over running the sawmill, 150 meters away, And I just love the, you know, like that deep kind of slow RPM that it had. It sounded pretty cool, but I have to admit, when I saw David light this one up, as soon as he cracked the throttle, you could just see there was so much power there, and it was just throwing sawdust everywhere. You had your hand on the saw. How did it feel? Comparison between the two.
Imagine holding the world's largest electric toothbrush, and you'd have a pretty good indication of what I was going through while cutting with this saw.
Do you got any handshake going on? Can we see the fingers? Those of you who don't know the anti-vibe, this bar is attached with a spring to this, so it's completely separate from the saw. This saw is solid metal, so the entire force of the motor is felt through your hand. Which saw was more exciting to use?
Well, there's the novelty factor of the 090, and I think that's a big draw for a lot of people, and myself included. It's a big saw. It sounds like a dirt bike, really. Like that's the kind of impression you get when it fires up. It's just that once you sink your 4-foot bar into the wood, that's over. There's nothing left to do. You're just waiting around for the teeth to pull material out, and they do it. And there's big shavings coming out of this saw all day. Like actually, I was getting a lot bigger shavings in the 090, and that has a lot to do with the bar orientation. So because the bar isn't going straight up and down, I get full-size shavings, long stringy stuff. Whereas with this one, I have to go almost completely straight up and down at the butt of the log, and I'm just getting sawdust at that point. So it slows down a bit on that, but the high revs, I think, overcome that factor. And I think with a fuel-injected system and high revs like that, yeah, this one is kind of the favorite. So,
The favorite.
Yeah.
You know, I really feel like this saw is, you know, like that muscle car of the past. You know, it's like exciting. It's got that deep throaty roar. You think of it as having enormous amounts of power. And this saw is like your Audi Quattro. You got, you know, it's still got a V8, but it's not the same animal. It's fuel injected and, you know, all-wheel drive or whatever. You could say they're the same things, but there's really no comparison, really.
That being said, I think that the main difference in the last 40 years of Stihl's development and its technology, I mean, other than the fuel injected part, which is a pretty big step forward, would be convenience-based factors like, you know, ergonomic stuff like anti-vibe. Basically, the main changes are just for the comfort of the operator. And overall, like the fact that both saws are anywhere near each other in speed for this task is kind of, it's interesting because that's, you know, like 40 years of technology.
Yeah.
And it hasn't really put the chainsaw that much further forward.
Yeah.
You would expect that this would just win with flying colors, but it's close. That being said, the comfort for the operator goes a long way.
I always love pulling the old 090 out. It's always a good time.
Yeah. All right, that's that video. Let us know if you want to see any other comparisons.
Holy cow, that thing is heavy. You pick it up and you go like, oh yeah, it's a pretty heavy saw. But then you actually try and carry it somewhere. I've walked like 20 feet with this thing and my bicep is so pumped. I don't know, I think people were just built differently back then. Whew. Okay,
Okay, we gotta make this thumbnail work, guys.
Sideways or like back into the face?
yeah, we could go towards
Yeah,
this
we
way.
could go like a bit towards. Okay.
Ready?
1, 2, 3.
No, way more. Let's go. Let's get some more. That was good. That was perfect.